Order! Order! What on earth are you saying, Council?
Strongheart, you could just fire him. Kazuma's not working for the interests of his position, so we're gonna
When he's
fire
playing
you.
judge, can he do that?
I mean, it's his courtroom. He can do whatever he wants. Like, Kazuma's in contempt of the court. The prosecution made an assertion in court yesterday.
To be fair, Kazuma waited till it was disproven, though.
Fair enough. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. But in reality, the truth is the opposite of that.
What?
Inspector Gregson wasn't investigating the Reaper at all.
I'm saying a lot of whats.
He was acting for the Reaper.
So, you're saying the mission he was undertaking was...
Obviously, an assassination. Baruch von Zieks never carried out any of the actual killings. Whenever the Reaper's victims lost their lives, he always had a cast iron alibi, which tells us that he must have had an accomplice.
And you claim that was Inspector Gregson.
Oh, Dad, what the hell you think you're saying?
Man, I wish they had a Gina hold it.
I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be my voice. It'd be something actually passable
It'd be-
for a guy.
It'd be, hold it!
Hold it!
My boss had never done nothing like that. And yet, when you consider all the facts, it all makes perfect sense. No, it can't be. We also arrived at the same conclusion, didn't we? That Inspector Gregson was operating as the Reaper.
Even so, there's no way that the person giving him his orders was Lord Van Zieks. No, the true Reaper is somebody else. Baruch Van Zieks is not the Reaper.
A predictable response from someone who's advocating for the man.
And even if it's true that Gregson was operating as an agent to the Reaper, the suggestion that he went aboard the SS Grouse on an assassination mission doesn't follow at all. Oh? You have some solid reasoning for doubt in the assertion, do you, Counsel? Absolutely. It's very simple. On the day in question, nobody was killed aboard the steamship. Pastor Mikitoba and Judge Shigoku were on that very ship. If someone had been assassinated, I'm certain we would have heard about it. What's so funny?
You are right, of course. No suspicious deaths were reported on board the ship.
Like, Kazuma's just like smiling, laughing, like it's the middle of a murder case. He's just having the time of his life.
Listen, it's his revenge. But I think perhaps you've missed the point. That's precisely why Inspector Gregson himself lost his life.
What?
Gregson did board the SS Grouse that night with the intention of dispatching his mark. But his mission ended in failure.
Failure?
It seems that the defense hasn't yet grasped a very important detail here.
What are you talking about? What detail?
Inspector Gina Lestrade. Eh? What? The victim's notebook that you read an excerpt from earlier. It doesn't contain details of secret investigations at all. It describes 10 years of assassination plots to be carried out by the Reaper of the Bailey. You're lying! Even if all them bludgers were taken out, had it coming. The boss wet the Reaper. Gina. There's no question that Tobias Gregson was heavily involved in the Reaper's activities. He may be just an apprentice, but if you spent any time in Scotland Yard, you must have heard rumors. I ain't heard nothing, and I don't believe a word of it. Then testify again as a representative of Scotland Yard. Consider it your chance to defend your boss. I don't...
I concur. The witness will give a new formal testimony. Miss Lestrade, you will tell the court everything you know about Inspector Gregson's secret book.
Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da. Yeah, this notebook does have a lot of stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past 10 years. Names of victims, dates, and places and stuff. In the last entry, that was October 31st October. It said grouse for the name of that date, and then the name of the mark. There was a note about him being a criminal who got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago or something. But honest, the boss didn't do none of it. He was just investigating the Reaper, that's all.
Keep personal opinion out of your testimony, witness. We require only established fact here. This must be so hard for her.
Can't deny now, surely, Ryanowski.
What can't I deny?
The notebook contained the name of the final mark and the location where the assassination would take place. The information that the victim could have only known if he was working with it.
Ah. So, who is to be this final mark?
Go ahead, Inspector Lestrade, read the name for the court. Name that's written alongside the entry that mentions the grouse. 31st October. Yeah? Oh, how do you read this then?
Reading's still not her strong suit.
That ain't the problem, right, Odo? It's a funny name. It ain't English. It's hard to read.
So it's someone from overseas.
Let me have a bash of it. Say, Hero, is it? Yeah, say Shiro. You maybe?
What? It can't be. Sashiro Jigoku?
That's Judge Jigoku.
Sashiro Jigoku. Certainly not an English name, you're right. That can't be right. I know Judge Jigoku, and I saw him the day before yesterday, here in London. So I know for a fact that the man hasn't been assassinated.
Mm-hmm. As I said, the Reaper failed.
Oh.
Gregson missed his chance to kill his mark and return to British shore. The Reaper wouldn't tolerate the mistake, so he killed the inspector, personally. The Reaper, of course, being the accused, Baroque von Zeeks.
It's an undeniably logical argument. Kazuma, you planned for the trial to go this way all along, didn't you?
Hold it!
Oh. Really? This is a different angle than I'm used to. Pray forgive the discourtesy of feeling my hallowed challenge while I stand a murder.
Don't you like the angle of staring right at the bottom of his boot?
He's such an iconic person.
Like, I think I've seen the bottom of his boot more than the bottom of any other boot.
Pray
which
forgive.
is unfortunate.
Pray forgive.
Lord
The
Van
discourtesy
Zeeks.
of like my hallowed chalice while I stand accused of murder. The accused has no right to speak uninvited in court. You will return to the dock. I will say nothing of whether or not I'm the Reaper. That's the task of the court to decide. There's one thing I can say unequivocally. Kya! That girl is no detective. Eh? What? Nah, that's right, I ain't. I'm an inspector. Repeating rumors said around the yard. reading entries from a notebook of unconfirmed origins.
Yeah, that will always be the best prosecutor rebuff move, Dragon.
It's not testimony, practically a script. No doubt the rest of this trial will go exactly as you've clearly planned. Your hatred of me is understandable. In your mind, I'm sure I'm the Reaper who sent your father to the gallows all those years ago. But you're in danger of becoming a far more sinister Reaper yourself. By attempting to have me condemned with this feeble excuse for testimony. What did you say? Mr. Naruto, this is our chance.
My lord, the defense requests the defendant be allowed to speak. He may be privy to important information relating to the testimony just given by the witness. Reno's, that's a bad idea.
Really bad idea.
Very well. I'll make an exception and grant the request. The defendant may remain in the witness stand for the cross-examination.
Then allow me to toast the court's impartiality.
Don't raise your glass in my direction, sir. Counsel for the defense, begin the cross-examination immediately.
So tense. Upsetting.
At once, my lord.
Is this new stuff?
What in?
Is this new information?
No, this is the cross-examination that you just read.
So, but now Von Zieks is next to her. Is that essentially?
Yeah,
You gotta,
Von Zieks
press
is next to her.
something and gonna interject.
Yeah.
Okay, next. 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 Press.
What do you mean a criminal? Judge Jigoku is no criminal.
Well, that's me. I don't know nothing about it. Oh, do you remember what Father told us? Judge Goku did once appear in court here in Britain. It was related to the Professor case, I'm sure.
Yes, of course, you're right. To see I was trying to mitigate Johnson's guilt, so he took the town to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand.
I appreciate you going back to his original voice for this flashback.
He also had some contemptuous words about the British Empire, so they charged.
Keeping things very consistent.
I'd have to.
It was a pitiful situation, yes. I'd forgotten all about it, but I prosecuted that trial too, as it seems.
You did?
It was considered to be an adjunct to the Professor proceedings, you see. But he was acquitted after being told to make reparations for the damages caused to the stand. And there you have it. Have what? Surely the accused hasn't forgotten his own rule. That there's no saving anyone who faces a Reaper in court, guilty or innocent alike.
What? No! Are you suggesting that the reason Judge Jigoku is targeted for assassination?
The man was sent back to Japan immediately after that trial. The Reaper had no time to do his work. Then, 10 years later, Mark returns to Britain once more. Perhaps now you start to see just how vindictive the Reaper is.
Come on, that's absurd. You take someone's life for that.
Isn't the whole premise of the Reaper absurd, killing those who have been found innocent? Clearly the rules by which this man operates are beyond a sane person's comprehension.
But...
Press this one. I know we're running low on time.
Well, we're not gonna in the middle of the cross-examination stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you
So-
want to expedite.
How would I expedite? Would we skip reading?
No, just if I was going down the wrong thread of pressing.
You're not.
Okay,
So
go
you
ahead.
have complete faith that Inspector Gregson is innocent in all of this.
Cause I do. I mean, I owe him that, don't I? Because he's the only one who had faith in me. Gina, the boss promised me. He did. Promised me that even though I was just a diver, he could turn me into a top-notch detective. A cop with a girl like that ain't gonna rob people of the future, is he? Every single person killed by a Reaper was a criminal of the First Order. Lowlifes like that have no compunction about robbing hundreds of others of their futures. Eh? Their ludicrous acquittals in court give them the freedom to make hundreds more suffer. I don't. So what? You justified your actions because you were protecting innocent people's futures. I'm not suggesting that the Reaper's methods are justified at all. But life isn't black and white. That's all I'm saying. Oh,
So that's what we have to work with.
it may help us that Lorvan sits in the sand too.
Yes, perhaps. I'm sure Gina knows nothing she hasn't already told us. There's no point trying to get more out of her.
Did you notice how Kazuma reacted to Lorvan's words?
When he called him an even more sinister Reaper, you mean? Well, I'm sure Kazuma tends to eliminate any shred of doubt that man is guilty. He's looking for revenge against the person he considers to be his father's killer, after all.
I do worry that if we fail to find a discrepancy in testimony, the trial may end and adjudication will go in our favor. Let's listen carefully again to what everybody's saying. So do we just have to press everything?
Yes.
What?
In other words, it shows that Gregson was basically acting as the Reaper.
Not you know. That ain't the only explanation, is it? Could have been investigating the Reaper in secret, and the notebooks are what he found out. If I may. When originally people began referring to me as the Reaper, I didn't object. I believe the power to intimidate London classes into compliance with the law to be beneficial.
You carried out your own investigations into the true identity of the Reaper, didn't you?
Yes, and those investigations proved conclusively that Gregson was one arm of. One arm? What are you on about? Reaper's victims were all extremely shrewd criminals at the top of the game. There's simply no way one person could have taken it alone. It was an organization.
So you know, you're getting kind of hard to pick up with his voice.
With with you at its head.
I know it's a low voice, it's probably hard to project it, but...
I had spies in the yard keeping me abreast of Gregson's movement, letting me know when he was elsewhere. So I'd been able to check on the most recent entries in his book. I knew the location.
You knew it said groups.
Believing it to be a reference to a gentleman's club, I went and found the day in question to investigate, alone. So that explains why several club claim to have seen you there. But of course, the inspector was not there. Because at the time he was making his way to the steamship docked in the northeast coast of France. As shown by the passport found on the victim's mental truck. Mental truck? Mental truck. Very well then, back to your testimony about the contents of this notebook. Fine. Something wrong, Mr. Naruto. You seemed a little shocked by something a moment ago.
Oh, no, it's alright.
I'm overthinking this, aren't I?
Boom, 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 boom.
Names of victims, dates, places, and stuff. What in particular?
Well, besides the victims' names, this other name kept cropping up.
What other name was that?
Oh, such shit. How much about it? The one I told you about yesterday, the same name written all again.
You mean... Assassin?
Yeah, that's the one. She's a friend of yours this summer, is she?
Were you even listening yesterday?
Assassin, the assassin. What? Like, a killer, you mean? Gregson was a tactician. Marie's following my hand. He's the one who came up with the plan of attack. He investigated the mark thoroughly, finding out when they would be vulnerable and who to use
Sorry, to get at them.
to get at them.
The person actually executing his plans was someone else, you're saying. If that's true, then the Reaper does indeed start to sound like an organized group of vigilantes.
Ah, then perhaps what it said on the passport document. Permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. Could that additional person have been...
Clearly the assassin, who was meant to take Seishiro Jigoku's life.
Gina, can you confirm that? Against the final entry that listed Bruce and Seishiro Jigoku. What name was written?
Oh, well, that's the only entry that didn't have a name next to it as it happens.
What?
It just had, like a question mark or something there, I think.
In other words, Gregson himself didn't know the identity of the assassin in that case.
But Gregson was the one making the plans, was he not? How frustrating.
Infuriating, but they're synonyms, I guess.
How infuriating.
A nameless assassin. And you're saying that the mark listed was Seishiro Jigoku?
That's what I said. Funny name, if you ask me. And I thought your name was odd.
So pleased to have lost my crown there.
Mr. Jigoku is the presiding judge of Japan's Supreme Court of Judicature.
I remember the man. He came to our country as a visiting student 16 years ago.
Studying international law and diplomacy under your tutelage, Lord Stronghold.
That bearded young fellow was a very able man, I must say.
So Lord Stronghold was Judge Jigoku's mentor.
If I'm not mistaken, he returned to Japan 10 years ago now.
10 years ago, after the fateful case.
Precisely. In the aftermath of the Professor case, his repatriation was organized immediately. It's a mystery why such a man would be listed in the inspector's notebook.
I didn't think it was possible, but the mood in here just got worse now. Maybe I'll just keep talking. Right, I've had just enough of this.
Gina?
All this nonsense about the boss is planning to kill people. It's clobbers. Come on, Udo.
Yes?
Why ain't you saying nothing? Why ain't you yelling out objection or something?
What?
You've got to find a flaw, you do usually. Someone's lying here, no question. You gotta figure out who it is. Please? For the boss?
Aww.
That outburst was an insult to the court and to your own testimony. I might have known that a common pickpocket from the back slums couldn't make a detective. When this trial is over, you will forfeit your warrant card, Miss Lestrade. Is that clear?
I've had it with a lot of you. Place, you're looking this real in it. Well, I've had enough. Gina.
So have I. After the little speech of Gina's, I've made up my mind.
You do what, Mr. Naruto?
There was one point in this cross-examination when something that was said just didn't sit right with me. One statement that seemed odd.
Oh, do you mean?
I'm not going to let Gina's plea for help fall on deaf ears.
That's
a new statement.
Come on, Odo, help. You gotta find a flaw somewhere. Do we press it or do we go back to the statement where he thought, the first statement where he was like, oh, that's weird?
We press it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank you, Gina. You helped me find my resolve.
He said the game's title. Eh? What do you mean?
Amongst everything we've heard during this cross-examination, there's one thing that defies explanation. One inconsistency. He also said the trial's title. Or the episode's title.
What's the episode's title?
The Resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Oh.
What an inconsistency.
Really, Odo?
I don't quite know what it means yet, but... yes, there's inconsistency in something we said that was said by... Well, you think?
I'm going to say by Strongheart.
Strongheart?
Yeah, go ahead. We're running out of time.
There's definitely something strange about it that didn't add up. The inconsistency is in a statement made by this person.
Objection.
People can only be inconsistent in what they say if they actually testify. But in case you hadn't noticed, the person you're accusing isn't even in the stand.
Ah,
The defense appears unable to respond to the replication. Any further obvious deliberate obstructions to these proceedings will not be tolerated, counsel.
no, wait. It's not strictly true, is it? A person doesn't necessarily have to be in the stand to say something that doesn't add up in court.
Mr. Naruto, I'm quite sure that you're just a step away from the right answer.
I just need to listen carefully to what people are saying again.
Is it Kazuma?
Let me try
Clearly,
Kazuma.
process of elimination is either Kazuma or Suzato, so I'm gonna go with Kazuma.
Or Ryunosuke. Oh, we can't present ourselves though. You're not on
There's
his
an
profile.
inconsistency with my own statement.
Ah!
So you just
I
lied.
lied! By you,
Under oath, even.
Kazuma Asogi.
Me.
There's some attempt at filibustering, counsel.
Well, he said it.
Prosecutor Sogi has given no testimony.
What are you suggesting that I was inconsistent? What are you suggesting I said was inconsistent?
You let something slip that you shouldn't have. When I present the relevant piece of evidence, I imagine you'll realize what you've done.
Very well then, counsel, go ahead. What evidence reveals this alleged inconsistency in something Prosecutor Asogi said?
Whoa! Could you
I hope you weren't just guessing.
briefly remind me what was spoken about? Go back. Go back.
Go
to
back?
the third screen. Oh, was it that it was found in the trunk, right? It was. He said that. He said that the thing was found in there. Like, how would he have known that?
So should we do that?
Right? Yeah.
Take that.
This is a trunk that belonged to Inspector Gregson.
I'm right, aren't I? I'm right. Look at me.
Metal construction, is it? It's certainly very heavy.
Look at me. Paying
What's
attention. Look at me.
this?
Paying attention.
A bloodstain, and a relatively fresh one, too.
What? You mean that ain't grease from all the boss's fish and chips? Fresh blood on the inspector's trunk. That suggests that the victim was traveling with that luggage when he was killed.
That can't be. There is no mention of any trunk in Scotland Yard's report.
Yes, there's a reason for that. Immediately after the inspector's body was discovered, one of the street peddlers made off with the trunk, hoping to sell it.
But I found it, me nose for trouble.
Humph.
Which means that nobody should have known anything about the trunk. Unless, of course, we're talking about somebody who was present when the victim was killed. And yet, during the cross-examination of the witness just now, you said this, Kazuma.
Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France. As shown on the passport found in the victim's metal trunk.
So the question is, how did you know about the inspector's trunk?
Oh, but he does have quite a bit of junk in it. We know the man went on a trip to France.
Yeah, shady.
Where else could he have put his passport? Pocket?
But he knew it was a metal trunk. Answer me honestly, Kazuma. On 31st of October, where exactly were you?
At the port of Dunkirk, aboard the SS Groose. Is that the answer you're looking for, Ryunosuke?
Kazuma, what did you... I hadn't considered the possibility before, but if Kazuma was there on the ship, then it can only have been for one purpose.
Oh no, Mr. Naruto, surely you don't think... Come on, Ryunosuke, you know the rules. The only thing that really talks in the courtroom is hard evidence. As I understand it, Inspector Gregson always took that case with him when he traveled. So as it stands, you've proved nothing.
Kazuma, are you challenging me to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt? That you were there that day, in the same place as the inspector?
He was there with Gregson.
There's a clue that you've overlooked, a secret that trunk can tell us. Can't be sure at this point, I'll need to verify it. But I have a nasty feeling that I'm going to be right.
The accusation being made is deeply disturbing. Nevertheless, we must test it. The defense will identify for the court where in its trunk this alleged clue is to be found.
Ba-joop. It's the slash.
Where's the evidence that ties Prosecutor Sogi to Inspector Gregson?
It's the slash. It's a slash. Is it not? Is it not?
I guess shot aside, gone right to leather, into the metal, behind.
Gosh, around a chest like this should have been so badly damaged. Whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the truck with
I
considerable
wonder how it
force.
happened.
I mean, if it's not, we can...
I didn't want to. Okay.
If it's not, we don't have to pick it.
This is your proof? What do you have to say to that, Prosecutor Sogi?
Personally, I prefer the air. I think time to defense...
Yeah, I was confused. I seemed right and also seemed wrong. But yeah, say.
I think tying the detective's counsel to the inspector's truck and toss it into the sea would be more helpful.
What?
At least that way, London's courtrooms will be safe from his destructive accusations. Leaves a rather long-winded way to telling you that you're wrong, Mr. Naruto.
Very well, then let's see if you sink or swim under the weight of this penalty, counsel.
And I didn't save, oh well.
It's fine. Mr. Naruto, you can't allow yourself to be drowned at sea yet.
I was hoping never to let this happen, funnily enough. Okay. Let's open the case.
Over the gates.
Let's have a look inside.
Take a look inside.
See that? The sun's stuck in the side of the trunk there. It's glinting.
Looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged so tightly I can't remove it.
Don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think.
So I was right.
There's a small piece of metal lodged in the wall of the trunk here, like the tip of a blade.
Eh? A blade?
Kazuma, slung around your waist as ever today, is the esteemed blade Karuma.
Of course it is.
Shit, he broke his katana on a briefcase with dishonor upon his family. When you draw it here in this courtroom for all to see,
Exercise caution, my learned friend. Man is the son of London's most notorious killer.
Bailiff, watch Prosecutor Asogi like a hawk.
That won't be necessary. Oh no!
the tip is broken. The fragment of metal from the trunk fits together with the end of the sword. The question of who was there with Inspector Gregson will be answered. Agreed. Kazuma Asogi?
Expertly done, Ryunosuke. That's a point to you and well deserved.
You mean to tell the court, Prosecutor Asogi?
Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission.
So the additional person authorized to travel.
Was me.
The mission was...
The assassination of the Mark.
What? You mean, you're the killer whose name was omitted from this notebook? You're following the Reaper's orders to dispatch Judge Jigoku?
Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I have killed no one.
Explain.
I accepted the assassination mission, yes, and I accompanied Gregson to Dunkirk. But I never had any intention of carrying out the plan.
You were never going to do it.
I can believe Kazuma-sama, I'm sure. After all, Judge Jigoku arrived safely in London the following day. On the 31st, I boarded a train from London with Inspector Gregson. We traveled to Dover, from where we crossed the channel to Dunkirk. Then we boarded the SS Groose and made for the cabin deck, as indicated in the plan. You went to Judge Jigoku's cabin? Exactly. He wasn't there, though. We decided to wait, but...
But you have already told us you had no intention of going through with it anyway.
I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life. So I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town, and returned to England the following morning.
A boarding house? In Dunkirk?
My signature will be in the register book. It was simple enough to verify.
Then what became of Jigoku?
Gregson was no assassin, so the mark was spared. I'm sure it's easy enough to imagine what happened after that. Gregson returned to England as well, having failed to complete the mission. I met the Reaper in that room on Fresno Street to report the failure, causing the infuriated mastermind to pull the trigger and end his wretched agent's life. It's the real truth behind Inspector Gregson's murder. But if you did nothing as you claim, how did the tip of your sword come to be lodged in the inspector's trunk? I don't need to answer that. The victim was killed by a gunshot. A small fragment of a Japanese blade is irrelevant to the case. And accordingly, I chose to exercise my right to silence the matter.
Be that as it may, the court will sequester the sword as evidence.
As you wish, my lord.
Karuma. We must take immediate action now. We're almost at a good stopping point.
Karuma, the great blade. Such a thing of beauty, I want to gaze on it for hours. The tip of the great sword. Broken. It's a shame. It's been so meticulously cared for over the years. No worries, Shady. Have a good night. I can almost hear Karuma's sobs. Kazuma must have really taken a swing for that to happen.
Okay. Take immediate action now to verify whether Sashiro Jigoku remains unharmed.
What? Remains unharmed?
I agree, that should be our first priority. It's recently come to my attention that he hasn't been seen since yesterday.
How did you...
When a foreign dignitary invited to Great Britain goes missing for 24 hours, it's only natural that the question of his safety should arise.
You don't mean to say you think Judge Jigoku may have been killed?
The Reaper has more than one assassin at his disposal, as he has the powers to influence, to give orders from the inside of a prison cell. Is that right, Lord Von Zees? If I were truly the Reaper, I'd be able to tell you.
Order in court, order! We will take an emergency recess for 30 minutes.
Now?
Guests of the symposium have been told to maintain regular contact with the organizer's office. If the man can't be located within a half an hour, we will have to assume the worst.
Oh no, not Judge Shigoku! No one would want to kill a harmless Japanese man who had only just arrived in the country. Except that is, for the Reaper wanting to finish off a mark that's net 10 years ago.
I would have to agree. Mr. Naruhodo, for the defense's sake.
My lord?
I sincerely hope we are successful. If we're unable to confirm Judge Jigoku's healthy existence in the next 30 minutes, you will face grave difficulties.
Ah.
Court is adjourned for 30 minutes.
Like, how is that his responsibility? Like, why is he gonna be punished then?
I don't know. Kazuma-sama, the Reaper's assassin. He was in a nightmare.